Hello and welcome back to Crypto Saving Experts, where we talk about the latest cryptocurrency news and take a look at the markets so that we all know exactly what is happening. My name is Jess and we do these live streams every single weekday. So if you are new here, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that bell notification button. We have a lot to discuss today. Today is the day that reportedly Blackrock are buying £10 million worth of Bitcoin. We are also going to take a look at the Bitcoin ETFs and what is happening there, what else we have in store, and what progress these applicants are making with their applications to the SEC. We are all waiting for that 10th of January deadline, and I want to talk a little bit more about this because I've been thinking about this a lot within the last 24 hours and what the possibilities are for the 10th of January. And the more I think about it, the more I believe the SEC are trapped in a corner where they are struggling to have any other choice but to accept. So we will be discussing all of those reasons today. Make sure to like, subscribe and hit that bell notification button. Let's first of all take a look at the price of Bitcoin here. It's currently sat at $43,915, up 1.5% within the last 24 hours. Ethereum's trailing slowly after it, 0.55% up at $2,244. Taking a look at some of the altcoins here, we've got Chainlink down ever so slightly. We're looking at between 0 to 2% changes for the majority of these tokens. We haven't really seen too much of a volatile 24 hours, but in terms of biggest losers and gainers of the day within the top 100 tokens, we've got Osmosis up almost 15%, Terra Luna Classic up 8.7%, Cosmos up 4.9%, having seen the Atom ecosystem really being adopted a lot more and transaction volumes increasing and total value locked increasing. Cosmos is seeing a nice move to the upside. And we've got Nexo up 4.4% to $0.92. In terms of biggest losers of the day, we're looking at between 5 and 8% changes there. Not too much to worry about there, I don't think. But the markets are quite calm, and I can't help but feel like this is the calm before the storm. And there's a lot to come next week and potentially over the weekend. So let's discuss that. Let's get into the price of Bitcoin. Let's check in with the chat first of all here. We've got 24 viewers on today's stream already on YouTube. So make sure to like, subscribe and hit that bell notification button to help us hit our like goal today of 40 likes. The more you like, the more you comment, the more you interact with the stream, the more YouTube will push it out to more people, the more educated they can get about cryptocurrency, and hopefully the more they invest. And the more investment we get in the markets, the more money flow into the markets, the better we will all become. Let's take a look at what's going on here in the chat. Good morning, Rob. Good morning, Justin and Monkey Nuts. Thank you very much for tuning in once again. James says, Jess, your watch is slow. I know. My New Year's resolution has not been off to a good start. 11 till 12 a.m. are when these live streams start. We're going to get it to 11. It's just going to, there's small steps. It used to be 11 a.m., 5 p.m., 12 midday, 3 p.m. It used to be all over the place. But we're getting there. Between 11 and 12 every day, we're live streaming. Eventually it'll be 11 on the dot every single day. Baby steps it is. Let's take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin right now. Let's delete all of these lines off the chart and see what is happening here. Let's reset this price scale. So what we're seeing here is we are actually in a channel right now. If I pull up these lines here from these wicks, you can see we have a level of support here. And if we go from the bodies, you can see we have a level of support here as well. So that runs right across there. Two major levels of support to be watching out for. They've both been touched a number of times by now, so both relatively strong at this point in time. We do have a parallel, almost parallel level of resistance here. I would say that we were using multiple times. We have kind of ruined this one. No, it hasn't been acting as strong as we'd like it to. If we go onto the 1 hour chart, you could see we've kind of destroyed it. We did break back up above it and then use it as a level of support, but then we've just been up and over it. We did bounce it then again. It is kind of there, but I wouldn't say it's too strong on the 4 hour chart. So I'm now looking for other levels here. Bitcoin did not respect that level of resistance very nicely. You can see we clearly have some parallel lines here, turning this into a channel, which gives us a level of support down at $42,210 and a level of resistance at $45,660. But as I keep saying here on these live streams, technical analysis is not enough at this point in time. what is going on in the news is highly influencing the value of these assets. And when Bitcoin is influenced by the news and Bitcoin moves, the whole cryptocurrency ecosystem is probably going to follow pretty suit. When we saw that big crash in Bitcoin on Wednesday, we did see the rest of the cryptocurrency markets move down as well. We saw Chainlink drop something like 34%. If we pull that up, let's take a look at that. Chainlink USDT, if you take a look at this dip here, in just one short period, okay, maybe it wasn't as dramatic as I thought. 18% on Wednesday. That is a huge decline. That is not something we see very often. It was a massive opportunity. I was absolutely furious because I was using BitGet and the whole application froze and you could not place any trades when that dip was happening. And I was trying to buy. I was trying to add leverage to my positions. I wanted to go big and I could not. So I was very frustrated at that. But these things happen in the markets. We used to see that in the bull market all the time and with all the major exchanges. Very, very annoying. Let's take a look at what is going on here. James says in the chat, I haven't read the court ruling, but if it says by the date, then the SEC needs to go before that date, as court tends to rule to the date given, so there is no confusion. SEC normally announce at 2 p.m. Ben says 10 million is nothing, but this is the start. Let's go into the spot Bitcoin ETFs now and address that. Ben says $10 million is nothing. So the reports are that Blackrock is going to put $10 million into Bitcoin today. Now, it was meant to be on the 3rd of January, 2 days ago, but it seems like it's been delayed according to reports, and they are putting that money into the markets today. Now, why is this important? Blackrock have actually said their seed round was worth $10 million. Another application has said $200 million is in their seed round. So they're raising this amount of money to put into the Bitcoin stock to kind of start it off. So we're looking at $10 million here. We're looking at $200 million elsewhere. We're seeing a huge amount of companies saying, look, we want to allocate a portion of our funds to Bitcoin. In fact, there was news articles yesterday. I haven't pulled any of these up. I don't know where I'm best to find this. Do you know what? We'll take a look on Twitter. Let me pull this out so I can find. I think I retweeted something about this yesterday. If we go to my Twitter page, so this is what I'm talking about here. Let's take a look at this tweet here. This is the kind of opportunities we're seeing with the spot Bitcoin ETF. Pattern is emerging. Other funds registered as securities already trading on the NASDAQ are amending their prospectuses that they can now expose 15 to 50% of their AUM to Bitcoin through the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Michael Saylor called this. Here we see Advisors Preferred Trust can now hold 15% AUM in spot Bitcoin through the Grayscale Bitcoin ETF. The fund may invest up to 15% of its total assets to indirectly gain exposure to Bitcoin through shares of Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust, ProShares Bitcoin Strategy ETF, and Bitcoin futures contracts. The preceded $1 quadrillion of spot Bitcoin and crypto derivatives stacked up by 2030. This is proof it's about to begin. And you can actually see a screenshot of the filing here. So we are seeing other funds saying, look, when these ETFs go live, we want to get exposure to Bitcoin. This is kind of putting all into facts here. What we've been saying over the last couple of weeks is that spot Bitcoin ETFs are going to have to buy up some Bitcoin to launch those products. We could then see a wave of retail investors getting involved because they all like to follow the bigger players in the space. And we could have a wave of institutional investors getting involved. And we are already seeing funds that are registered as securities amending their documents so that they can immediately get access to these ETFs. I don't know how you can look at all these facts and not be bullish on the outcome of a spot Bitcoin ETF. In the long term, this is an absolute game changer for the space and something we've been talking about for a very long time. So Ben, maybe $10 million is nothing and it won't affect the Bitcoin price that much, but the news of it coming in is enough to make us all feel bullish. And this is just the start. And we can all see that pretty clearly. This is just the start. If these spot Bitcoin ETFs get accepted and launched into the markets, there's a huge wave incoming into crypto and into Bitcoin, and there's a huge amount of opportunities there, and we can see that for ourselves when we're looking at different facts like this. So definitely something to be aware of. The $10 million may not have an immediate effect on its own in the markets, but the more bullish news that we are seeing about these ETFs and the more kind of positive expectations that these ETFs around the corner from these big companies is getting people excited about the markets, and that's exactly what we want to see. Let's take a look at what else is going on here. Listy says, Jess, in case SEC reject the ETF, what could be a good entry to take profit at the dump? If these ETFs do get rejected, Bitcoin could crash. It could crash. I'm not going to give you exact, if they get rejected, it will crash. Let's say that. We did see a sneak peek of that yesterday. No, on Wednesday, when that fake news came out that it was reported that these ETFs had been rejected, we did see Bitcoin drop pretty significantly, pretty quickly. So we can all anticipate that the rejection of an ETF could have a very negative effect on Bitcoin. There are some levels of support that I am watching out for. But in this scenario, supports do not really matter. If an ETF gets rejected, what happens is the price of Bitcoin starts to move to the downside because people feel fearful and they don't know what the future of the near future is going to be. So they want to get out their trades. And when Bitcoin starts crashing, we see a load of liquidations and the price continues to tumble. Now, let's in fact take a look at Bitcoin liquidations on CoinGlass here. So you can see the Bitcoin liquidation heat map here. This isn't what I was looking for. If we go back, so let's see if this is it. Let me try and find this. So what we can see here is the different points of liquidation levels on Binance. Let's see if this comes up here. A liquidation heat map. Is this not what we want? This is not what we want. Price chart. Let's see if I can find this. So what we can see here, this isn't what I want either. What is it that I want? I'm on CoinGlass. Let's pull this into the chat so you can. My whole computer's just frozen. I don't know if you can still hear me now. Here we go. We're back. So let's see if we can find a Bitcoin. Let's see if we can find this. RSI heat map, visual screener. I don't think we can find that right now. We'll come back to that later in the stream. But what we've seen basically is there is a huge amount of liquidations actually at these higher points. At these points up here, there's a huge amount of people that can get liquidated here. If Bitcoin's taking the path of most pain in its current price range, the liquidation point is actually up here. It's not down here, because when we had this massive wick to the downside, we liquidated a lot of people in the markets. So Bitcoin's path of most pain is actually to the upside, which is really, really interesting. Although funding rates on exchanges are still high, and positive, we do need to be aware of that. So that's kind of a bearish thing. But seeing that liquidation map, you can see that the liquidation points are up at the top. So what would happen to the price of Bitcoin? We would crash, but I would like to talk about the reasons as to why I don't think the SEC will be rejecting. There's really two possibilities here. And what it will be is either we find some sort of technical difficulty that allows the SEC to delay their response for the ETF, which has a deadline on the 10th of December. If we take a look at the ETF applications, you can see on this chart here, here's all the applicants to these for these ETFs, and the SEC has had a number of deadlines by which they need to accept, reject, or delay their response to the ETF issuers, but we're now approaching that final deadline, and by that final deadline they are no longer allowed to delay their response. Now we've got one ETF which has the final deadline on the 10th of January, which is why we are all so excited for what's to come next week. But the rest of these issuers have got a final deadline of the 14th, 15th, and 19th of March. So if the SEC can somehow find a way to see some technical difficulty, a technical issue within the ARC21 shares Bitcoin ETF filing that can allow them to delay their response further, I think they will do that. But I don't know if that's actually possible. Now, the next scenario is, which I think is incredibly unlikely, is that the SEC finds something in the ARC21 shares Bitcoin ETF filing that is not in the rest of the Bitcoin ETF applications that allows them to reject this ETF. I have seen previously, we all know now, Grayscale have applied for a spot Bitcoin ETF previously. The SEC rejected it, and then Grayscale took them to court, and the SEC lost in court, meaning that their reason as to why they rejected that spot Bitcoin ETF was wrong, and they actually shouldn't have used it as an excuse not to let Grayscale launch the product. So what we're seeing there is the SEC will not want to be in court again with all of these companies trying to fight with reasons that don't work as to why a spot Bitcoin ETF should not be accepted. So either the SEC need to find a completely new reason as to why spot Bitcoin ETFs cannot go live, and it's pretty hard to do that since we already have Bitcoin futures ETFs, or they need to find a reason as to why the ARC21 shares Bitcoin ETF can't go live, but that reason can't be in the other 9 because they don't want to face all of these companies. I think a Bitcoin ETF is coming soon. It's coming. It's a matter of when, not if, basically. And I don't think the SEC is going to go up against all of these companies. I think we are going to see one on the 10th of January or on the 15th of March. Those 2 dates are important. I think if we do see a rejection on the 10th of January, then we will be waiting for that second deadline. I will still be optimistic about the markets. We have that Bitcoin halving coming as well. So we have a lot of positivity in the market still. But I do think we will see a massive crash for Bitcoin. But I still don't see them rejecting. Being perfectly honest, I don't know how the SEC can reject on the 10th of January. Because if they're going to accept all of these other filings in March, ARC21 shares needs to have something that the other filings do not, and it needs to be big enough for the SEC to reject it or delay it. And I don't see how ARC21 shares can have something so significant that the other applications do not have. I think that's really difficult. But as I said, the last thing the SEC wants is to reject all of these applicants and end up in courts against all of them. I just don't see that as a scenario. I do see the SEC accepting these. All the analysts have said there's a high probability these applications will be accepted. So I find it very difficult to see a scenario as to how the SEC can worm its way around this 10th of January date and make it till the 15th of March before they accept these ETFs. But anything is possible. This is the SEC we're talking about. They have had a history of being very negative when it comes to the cryptocurrency space. Yes, they have been cooperating a lot better when it comes to these ETF issuers, but if they can find a way to work around that 10th of January deadline, I think they will. So I'm a bit torn between these 2 points right now. As I said, though, I think it is a matter of when, not if. James says if the ETF gets rejected, that will be the guy's resignation letter. If these ETFs get rejected, they're going to end up in court again. I don't see how they can find some reasoning unless they've thought of some reason that we've not all thought of. But they've been working and cooperating with these issuers even more now than ever. They're having meetings with them. They're having meetings with the exchanges like the NASDAQ. And they're really looking like they are cooperating with these companies. These companies are then making all of these refilings, amending all of their filings to make sure it's exactly how the SEC wants it before those final deadlines. I don't see a case where the SEC can reject these applications, but we just do not know. We just do not know. And we do have to wait until those final deadlines until we find out. I think it's very hard for the SEC to work past this 10th of January deadline without accepting it, but it is the SEC and it is possible. So we do need to be aware of that. I'm positioning myself for both opportunities, ready to go in the full bull market if we do get the acceptance, but also being cautious because there is the opportunity that we do see some sort of delay or block until that final deadline for the rest of the applicants. There's two scenarios here. I think even if we do have that 15th of March deadline coming, and it does look like that is the deadline by which the ETFs will be accepted, and somehow they manage to earn their way around that 10th of January date, the markets will dip. But if they say on the 10th of January, this application can go live, I'm imagining they will let them all go live for simultaneous acceptance so that none of them get that first mover advantage. And in that scenario, I am super bullish. I think that's perfectly clear. Retail investors are getting involved, institutional investors are getting involved, and companies are already amending their documents so that they can get exposure to these products as soon as they go live. That news was like another bullish confirmation for me that this is huge. Let's take a look at what else is going on here. JB says, to be honest, I'm more interested in the halving than the ETFs. Tired of ETF chat. Will be interesting to see what effect the halving has on price a few months after event. The Bitcoin halving will be a very interesting event as well. As we all know by now, Bitcoin moves in 4-year cycles. So if we take a look at BTC USD on the Bitstamp chart, you can see the entire history of Bitcoin on this chart, and you can see very, very clearly, if we go to the weekly, that we see 4-year cycles for Bitcoin. So we had a bear market, bull market, bear market, bull market, bear market, bull market, bear market, and now hopefully we do get that bull market there. And if we go to indicators and put Bitcoin halving on here, you can see the Bitcoin halving event is in place, and it's at the start of every bull market. Now, it's timed pretty nicely. Bitcoin's done exactly how it would typically in a 4-year cycle so far. So it's performing exactly how we want it to. The Bitcoin halving is every 210,000 blocks, which puts it in mid to late April this year. And so typically this does trigger a bull market. I would like to highlight that during that Bitcoin halving, typically Bitcoin does have a little bit of a pullback if you take a look at all the historic bull market halvings. So we could expect a little bit of a pullback in April. But what we're seeing here is Bitcoin's following those 4-year cycles really nicely. The trend is your friend until the end. Don't just believe, you have to be cautious with these kind of things, but I personally always go off timings. I always go off the 4-year cycles when it comes to my portfolio. I'm a big fan of looking at this kind of thing when looking at the markets. When it comes to my personal portfolio, I think I've taken a pretty conservative approach for this bull market. I've been looking at the markets. I've been looking at how Bitcoin has historically performed in the bull markets. I've seen continuously, and I've spoken about this a lot on the channel, since Bitcoin was down at $18,000 and below, I have been buying and buying and buying. I was buying a little bit on the way down as well, but I got a really big entry when Bitcoin was at $17,000, I think it was. Well, not a really big entry, a big entry for me, which is not as big as your average YouTuber. So I got a nice entry at $17,000 for Bitcoin, and I've held on to that Bitcoin without diversifying into altcoins. I know a lot of people have made a lot of money in altcoins within the last 6 months, but I am a bit more of a conservative trader, and I was looking at Ethereum versus Bitcoin and seeing that Ethereum typically doesn't perform as well as Bitcoin for the first part of the cycle until that Bitcoin halving, and then we start to see that shift. So I've been really focusing on just accumulating Bitcoin in this period of time. I'm now starting to slowly get prepared to diversify a little bit more and take a look at those high cap coins. What we typically see in these 4-year cycles is that Bitcoin performs really, really well, and then we start to see a shift to Ethereum and high cap coins, and then we start to see a shift to mid cap coins, and then we see that shift to low cap coins when there's loads of new retail investors in the space chasing those 100x tokens, throwing their money at the wall, and just seeing these altcoins absolutely explode. So I'm taking advantage of that. As I said, I like to look at the 4-year cycles. I like to look with a more zoomed out approach. I know some people that just manage to find a big altcoin every single day and make huge, huge gains. It's just not my trading style, but it's a lot more profitable than my trading style. So what I've been doing is buying Bitcoin during this period of time, holding on to my Bitcoin during this period of time. Once this Bitcoin ETF news comes out, hopefully it's positive on the 10th of January. Once we see the nice move to the upside of that, if that happens, then I'll be looking to diversify into other tokens, because that's when the opportunities will move into those high cap coins really. And we are already starting to see that shift there. Chainlink is up 50%, Solana is up a huge amount, and then moving to those mid cap coins and then those low cap coins as the 4 years go on. It's interesting though, because we're all relying on these 4-year cycles. The 4-year cycles are still here so far, and we are all expecting that they will continue to stay. But I think over time, the volatility here will start to decline. We won't see Bitcoin making huge, huge amounts of money every 4 years forever. I think with these institutions coming in, the 4-year cycles will change. They will become a lot less volatile. It can't print millionaires every 4 years forever. It can't have those really big dips forever. The volatility will start to decrease, and it will start to find its fair market value at some point in time, maybe within the next 10 years. I'm expecting another bull market, bear market, bull market, and then maybe just slow that down slightly. But it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. It really depends how big these institutions get involved in the space. If they're all in, the volatility is going to dramatically decline. The bigger Bitcoin gets, the bigger that market cap gets, the less volatile it's going to be. And that's why with those lower cap coins, you get that huge amount of volatility, those huge gains, but you have that extra risk. When it comes to Bitcoin, it's seen as the least risky because it's got that higher market cap. So it takes a bigger amount of money to have effect. And if its market cap grows significantly with these institutional investors and these Bitcoin ETFs, it's going to need a huge amount of money for that volatility to be maintained in the markets. And I just don't think that will happen. I think it will sort of slow down slightly. Let's take a look at what's going on in the chat here. Black Sail says, Miss Jess, since last halving, more Bitcoin mined and entered to the market. Wouldn't that affect the chart? The Bitcoin that's in the markets right now, I mean, Bitcoin halving halves the amount of Bitcoin that is being put into circulation. So there's a misconception, I think, that people think Bitcoin is a deflationary asset. It's not. It's an inflationary asset, but the inflation of the asset decreases every 4 years. So there is more Bitcoin being added to the circulation every single time that a new block is added to the blockchain. Currently that is 6.25 Bitcoin. That happens every 10 minutes. So 6.25 Bitcoin is being added to circulation every 10 minutes. And that's going to be halved to 3.125 Bitcoin in April when that halving occurs. That inflation is going to decline, and then in another 210,000 blocks in 4 years' time, it will decline again, and that will continue to happen. So the supply rate is increasing, but it's starting to level off at a fast rate, actually, for an asset like this. So when we're looking at that, yes, the supply is increased, but it's increasing slowly. And because the demand of the asset is continuing to increase over these cycles, it's not something to be concerned about. When we're looking at, for example, a couple of days ago, we were looking at an article from Crypto Saving Expert where we were talking about different altcoins that were releasing tokens into circulation. There's been a huge amount of unlocks in January of this year where projects, altcoins release a huge amount of tokens into circulation. And we were concerned about that because when you're looking at supply and demand, if demand stays the same and supply suddenly jumps up, some of them unlock like 50% of their tokens in one day, that's going to cause the price of the asset to decrease because that's how supply and demand works. But with Bitcoin, we are gradually increasing that level of supply slowly, and the demand is continuing to increase. So the increase of supply since the previous halving is not too much of a concern for us. In fact, it's not a concern at all for me. We are seeing that supply increase, but very, very slowly. It's not like an altcoin unlock where we see like 50% just getting thrown at the market, or even 10% of tokens getting thrown at the market. It's not the same thing. This is a gradual unlock every 10 minutes, and we can deal with that because it's not, the supply changes aren't significant, so it's not really affecting the markets when we are continuing to see increased demand. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the chat here. We've still not got onto today's cryptocurrency news. Christian says, what's your thoughts on BRC20 and the effects it has on the Bitcoin network, so ordinals? I did touch on this a couple of days ago. Bitcoin ordinals are not something that I'm a fan of. I will get into this in a second. Before we continue, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. We've got 37 people watching on YouTube right now and only 27 likes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button. Bitcoin ordinals, they congest the Bitcoin network, and I don't think they should be on there, but it is a decentralized network. There was a point in time where a lot of Bitcoin maxis were saying, look, you should not be able to put ordinals on the Bitcoin network, but we didn't have a choice. This is a decentralized network. There's no central authority. We cannot tell you what to do with that network. It is decentralized, but I do still have that mindset. Putting ordinals on the Bitcoin blockchain, congesting the network, is not what Bitcoin was built for. We have other projects that you can do this kind of thing on. It became a whole phase. A load of people were making a load of money off these ordinals. Brilliant. If you did, congratulations. It's we're all here to make money at the end of the day. But Bitcoin is there to be a peer-to-peer payment system, to use the network to congest it for these kind of, I want to say, pump and dumps at the end of the day. I don't like it on the Bitcoin network. I didn't invest into it just out of my own kind of morals and disagreeing with how the Bitcoin network should be used. But at the end of the day, we all have rights to use it how we want because it's a decentralized network. If you're going to make money off it, then congratulations. But they're my thoughts on that. Let's see what's going on here. Arakia says there is a lot of heat that the price of Bitcoin will go down between today and weekend. Now, there's a lot of interesting discussion there. We will be analysing the price of Bitcoin a little bit closer at the end of today's stream. A lot of people are very cautious about what could happen in the next couple of weeks, the next week, in fact. The 10th of January, the deadline for the SEC is on Wednesday, so we are expecting a lot of volatility before Wednesday. Usually weekends are pretty calm, volumes are low, and we just get some nice sideways action. Sometimes weekends are super volatile, so it's not always the case. Make sure to be watching out for that Bitcoin CME gap this weekend. That's an important thing to be careful about. Before Wednesday, we might see more fake news. We saw one last week. We saw some a couple of months ago now where they were saying that the Bitcoin ETF had been accepted, and we saw Bitcoin rocket. Now we're seeing rumors, fake news, that the Bitcoin ETF had been rejected, and we saw Bitcoin dump. So be aware that there may be some fake news out there that creates some volatility. Discussions on Twitter always create some volatility if it's kind of news like that. But we are all waiting now for the 10th of January. Everyone's being very sensitive to movements in the markets as well. The market is really sensitive now. In a bear market, when you're down in the dumps, the markets don't really move. It's just kind of like we're going down, we're going sideways, that's it. But right now, everybody has their eyes on the markets and everybody is very sensitive. Some people are too in. They're 100% in. it might not be too in, it might be the perfect decision if these ETFs get accepted. But they're very sensitive to drops to the downside, may feel fear, may try and sell. And then as soon as the markets go up, people feel greed, they want to buy. Everyone's very sensitive right now because of the anticipation of what's to come. So I am expecting some volatility over this weekend and over the start of next week. Let's take a look at what else is going on here in the chat. We're half an hour into today's stream and we've not even started. We've just been answering questions in the like chat. Monkey Nut says, come on, everyone, smash the like button, please. Please don't forget to like today's stream. It really helps us with the algorithm. And the channel's been growing a lot in this last week. We've been getting really good numbers. So thank you very much to everybody who has tuned in this week. And make sure to continue to tune in. As I said, make it your New Year's resolution that you learn what's going on in the cryptocurrency space. I'm here in the space 24 hours a day and wrap it all up for you in a 1 hour stream. So make sure to tune in daily and you will learn a lot. And hopefully it helps you with your portfolio management within the next year. And we all make a lot of money in 2024. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the cryptocurrency news. There, we've spoke about those Bitcoin ETFs and the potential there. We have seen Grayscale follow Fidelity with an 8A form filing as ETF deadline looms. So they're all kind of following each other. When one does something, the others do something. It was all posted as breaking news required by the SEC for a company to register its offering as a security. These forms have been made and it must be submitted before the security can be offered for trade on an exchange. The form must include a description of the type of security offered, the details of issuance, the distribution date, and any terms and conditions related to the security. So the filing is one of the primary forms companies use to register securities for listing on an exchange under the Securities Exchange Act 1934 for offering to the public, and has since been the reforms after the Great Depression. So a spokesperson for Grayscale emphasized the ongoing collaboration with the SEC to transition GBTC to NYSE Arca as a spot Bitcoin ETF, reaffirming their readiness pending regulatory green lights. So all of these companies are trying to be ready to literally press go as soon as the SEC gives the approval. So hopefully the approval does come next week. That's exactly what we want to see. We're on 32 likes right now with a goal of 40 likes for today's stream. Please make sure to press that like button and subscribe and hit that bell notification button. What we're seeing here is all of these applicants and issuers of these ETFs are doing everything they can to be ready to press go, essentially. As I've just said, for those of you that have only just joined, we are seeing news here that funds registered as securities already trading on the NASDAQ are already amending their prospectuses so that they can allow 15 to 50% of their AUM to Bitcoin through the spot Bitcoin ETF. So companies and funds that are already trading on the NASDAQ as securities are saying, look, when these ETFs go live, we want to be ready to get exposure to them. For example, we've got one here from Advisors Preferred Trust, and they've said in their prospectuses, we want to hold 15% AUM that can get exposure to Bitcoin through Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust, ProShares Bitcoin Strategy ETF, and Bitcoin Futures contracts. So if we're looking at this, and this is just one company, if we see the amount of companies that are making these changes, it's very, very exciting here. The ETFs really do bring in a new wave of retail investors, institutional investors, and it means these companies have to market Bitcoin as an investment asset as well, which is huge. There's a lot to come here with spot Bitcoin ETFs. Yes, the immediate effects would be amazing for an acceptance from the SEC, but the long-term effects would be even better. And this really is a game changer for Bitcoin. Let's take a look at what else is going on though, because we've been super bullish there. Let's take a look at the bearish perspective. Bitcoin found a short-term top in December, according to this analyst, who believes we could be due for a cool down to $30,000. Now, don't get me wrong. When I look at the Bitcoin chart here, I do feel a little bit fearful. If we didn't have the anticipation of these Bitcoin ETFs, I'd be very cautious right now, because what we can see is Bitcoin has had a nice uptrend with higher highs and higher lows. And then we've just had this continuous tick to the upside on the biggest. If you zoom out, that's all you can see. And that makes me feel worried. That makes me feel like, yeah, we are due for another pull down. But if you rewind and you go back to what happens in previous bull markets, we don't always get the opportunities of those higher highs and higher lows and these nice uptrends with all those big opportunities. In a bull market, you can see we made some nice moves and then all of a sudden it was just takeoff time. Yes, we did see big pullbacks in this bull market in the 2020 2020 bull market, we did see like 20 to 30% pullbacks for Bitcoin and bigger pullbacks for other assets during the bull market. But on the whole, if you zoom out onto the daily chart, you can see that it is a big move to the upside. We don't always get those big pullback opportunities. So it may just be that time has arisen and we're not going to get those big pullback opportunities. Or it may be that we're not there yet and we're going to see a massive dump to the downside. As I said, technical analysis right now is pretty useless on those bigger time frames. It depends on what's happening with those spot Bitcoin ETFs, which is why we all need to be educated on it and ready for the 10th of January or any day before that as well. We could hit any day now. So just be prepared for some volatility in the markets. Educate yourself on this as much as possible. Big changes are coming. We don't know which way it's going to go. There's a high probability in my mind that it will be acceptance of these ETFs, but nobody is certain. And even on the acceptance of these ETFs, is it going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event? Interesting options here that we do need to discuss. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the crypto. In fact, let's carry on with this $30,000 cool down prediction. So let's take a look at what this analyst has said. So Bitcoin's price took a nasty dive on Thursday, falling by 10% from the $45,500 area to a local low of $40,700. The number one crypto had on Tuesday set a 19-month peak of $45,880, fueling optimism that a push to $48,000 to $50,000 was likely due to hype surrounding the potential approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF this month. Now, he's saying, this analyst, Bitcoin is due for a cool down. So according to a report made by Matrix Port, cautioning that there is a slight chance that the US SEC could reject all spot Bitcoin ETF applications. We did see Matrix Port's analysts provide a 36 to 38% price target should such denial occur this month. But according to Bitcoin and crypto analyst CryptoCon, data suggests that Bitcoin was due for a cool down. They pointed out that its directional movement was in overheated territory and a correction to $30,000 was probable. Now, a correction to $30,000 is a huge way from where we are right now. If we take a look at the price of Bitcoin here, $30,000, that would take us down 30%. As I said, this isn't uncommon for a bull market. I think it may be a little... I don't know. I mean, I don't see the SEC rejecting all of these spot Bitcoin ETFs. It is still possible. But I honestly, I'd put it at like a 5% probability. I think 90% probability is that we get acceptance before the 10th of January. I think 5% probability... No, 80% probability we get acceptance of these spot Bitcoin ETFs 10th of January. 15% probability it happens on the 15th of March. And somehow they find some technical issue that allows them to delay their response to that one ETF with that final deadline on the 10th of January. And then we get the acceptance in 14th of March. 5% possibility that they just reject them all. I don't see them rejecting them all. They're working really hard with those issuers. The issuers are doing everything they can to get these applications over the line. And I don't see them putting themselves in a position where they can go in lawsuits with all of these applicants and lose even more credibility after losing against Grayscale a couple of months ago. So I just don't see that happening, but it's still, the probability is still there. We're not definite on this yet. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the markets though, because we've spoken about these ETFs a lot. We are very excited about them, but I think we need to move on to what else is going on in the cryptocurrency news here. We've got some really interesting stories coming here as well, actually, so make sure to stay tuned. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification buttons so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. What we've got here is Bitcoin miner Marathon mines a record amount of Bitcoin in December. So Marathon Digital Holdings has reported what they view as a new world record for the amount of Bitcoin mined in a single month by a company listed on the stock market. And what we can see here is they successfully mined 1,853 Bitcoin, an increase from November by 56% and a 290% leap from the previous December. So very nice to see that there. It looks like it is a world record here. Marathon stock has been in high demand over the past month. Their stock, Mara, briefly topped the charts for the most traded public company among the mid and high cap firms in the US stock market on the 28th of December. And their $3.3 billion daily volume saw them beat established giants Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon for the number one spot. So very, very interesting there. It's nice to see cryptocurrency related companies competing with these big markets, these big companies in the stock market. Let's see what else is going on here as well. So Logan Paul to refund CryptoZoo investors. This happened so long ago now. He promised a refund to investors. It's too long ago. Let's take a look at this. Logan Paul's NFT and GameFi project, CryptoZoo, was in the spotlight in 2023 after CoffeeZilla made multiple YouTube videos on the project. CoffeeZilla made his first video in the saga in December 2022 and continued to follow up with developments in 2023. In CoffeeZilla's videos, CoffeeZilla basically exposes people in the cryptocurrency space. He highlighted investors affected by the project. Following this, Paul pledged to refund those affected in January 2023, making the commitment a reality 1 year later. So he is doing NFT buybacks. He has stated on Twitter, "Today, I am incredibly happy to announce I am delivering on my promise to buy back Base Eggs and Base Animal CryptoZoo NFTs for the original purchase price." He noted that he was personally committing $2.3 million to the refunds for Base NFT holders, and he was highly disappointed that the game was not delivered. Lawsuits coming for bad actors in this space. So Paul followed up his pledge with another to hold the bad actors responsible for the game's derailment. He stated that an extensive investigation has been conducted, and with this evidence in mind, today I have filed a lawsuit in federal court in Texas to hold these bad actors accountable. So he's pointing fingers at people in his team that maybe didn't deliver on things they should have done, which made CryptoZoo unfortunately not be a success. Let's see what else is going on here. So Black Sales says congestion and high Bitcoin transfer fees paid to miners. That's why last month was high, but they made a record number of actual Bitcoin mined here. So what we can see here is they managed to mine 1,853 Bitcoin. So a huge number there. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the cryptocurrency markets here. Logan Paul to refund CryptoZoo investors. We've just done that one. $1.84 billion was stolen in 2023, down 51% year on year. Brilliant to see. Let's take a look at what's going on with these rate cuts as well. So we did highlight this yesterday. The FOMC minutes did come in after they had their meeting, and they are discussing three interest rate cuts in 2024. So let's take a look at this here. Are rate cuts bullish or cause for concern? So, rate cuts, Bitcoin halving, and spot Bitcoin ETF approval have all been touted as bullish events in 2024, but just how bullish are interest rate cuts? Essentially, what's happening here is interest rates are looking like they are beginning to decline in 2024. What we've seen is a massive increase in inflation following what happened in 2020. Now, the tool the government's used to reduce inflation is interest. If they increase the interest rates, inflation will decline because people have less excess money to spend. So they will spend less money, and therefore the economy will decrease and inflation will come down. So that's kind of how this works. But these interest rates have been incredibly high for a very long time. They have helped pull inflation down. But the Fed are actually looking at this now and saying, look, we are ready to start bringing the interest rates back down again. And why is that positive? When the interest rates come down, people have more excess money to spend because they're paying lower interest. Therefore, they have more money to throw into the markets like cryptocurrency, like the stock market. And that is why high interest rates are bad for the markets and low interest rates are good for the markets, essentially. So let's take a look at this. Rate cuts occur in an economy which needs an injection of economic activity to alleviate the effect of an economic slowdown. In the US, it is the Federal Reserve that controls interest rates. Historically, when they have cut interest rates, the economy has undergone a recession, the length of which has varied from months to years. These recession events have come alongside brief surges in the DXY, which hints at general market risk aversion. US interest rates overload onto a chart with the DXY and the S&P 500. The grayed out boxes denote periods of recession. So in history is to repeat itself. This means that Bitcoin may encounter a spell of risk aversion and recession upon the commencement of rate cuts. Now the question is, if we already know, first of all, the DXY, when the DXY is pumping, usually Bitcoin is dumping and vice versa. They have an inverse correlation there, specifically because Bitcoin is majority of the time measured against the dollar as well. So that really has an impact on it. So it could be that there is some concern here for Bitcoin, but at the same time, when there is a recession or fear in the markets, as we saw at the start of last year when banks stocks were plummeting in March 2023, people were turning to Bitcoin as a safe haven, as an opportunity to get exposure to Bitcoin rather than to the banks. So there's real controversy here. Bitcoin has not been through a recession before. It came out of the 2008 financial crisis. We don't exactly know how it will act. As the goal here has been to get it as big as possible before the next recession hits, in the hopes that it will be used as a safe haven and it will be used as an opportunity to get away from the problems in the main markets, essentially. So I think we are positioned in a pretty nice way at this point in time. If we take a look at what's going on here, these are the dates for the next interest rate announcements, where we will find out if we are seeing interest rate hikes or reducements. What we've got here is the 31st of January, 20th of March, 1st of May, 12th of June, and it just goes on like that. I would recommend putting all of these dates in your diary. So screenshot this now and make sure to put all of those in your diary, and you'll be able to stay up to date with what's going on with the interest rate changes in the US, because that really does dictate what's going on in the entire world's markets, not just the US market. So make sure to stay tuned on that. Let's take a look at what's going on in the chat. 36 likes on today's stream. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. Let's take a look at what is going on here. I will not sing at 40 likes, unfortunately. I don't think you want to hear me sing either. Will it be ABBA, Money, Money, Money? Yeah, that would be a good one, Rob. Monkey Nut says she has a voice like an angel. Honestly, me singing would change your mind on that. Let's take a look at what's going on with the price of Bitcoin here. If we go to the 4-hour chart, we can see that we are within that channel as discussed at the start of the stream. If we pull all of this out, you can hopefully, actually, if I go back to Bitcoin USDT on the Binance chart, my lines are still there. Here we go. What we've got here is we have a level of resistance at $45,600. We have a level of support of $42,260. But if any dramatic news comes out, whether it be fake or true, we are going to see volatility in the markets. And at that point in time, it doesn't really matter where our levels of support and resistance are. It's going to be volatile. So just be prepared for that. Make sure to tune into these live streams Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because we are going to be staying up to date with this ETF news. Hopefully it is big. Hopefully it is good. If anything changes over the weekend, we might do a special live stream, because things are heating up right now and I'm very excited about what's to come here in the space. So make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and we will be back here tomorrow with another crypto